Angie, good to talk to you again. How are you?
Doing well, Hoppy. Thanks for having me on and for facilitating this multi-dimensional dialogue that's happening around all these issues.
Well, there's a ton here, but I don't know if you read today's commentary, and I know I get it, and I'm not a climate denier. I understand that things need to be done to try to alleviate damage to the planet. I get all that, but look, we're West Virginians. How does this work for us? For West Virginia?
Well, it has to work for us. I mean, we have to find a way. And, I did read your commentary today, and I share your sentiment of worry. And, I've been worried probably for the past 10 to 15 years when I started really driving around, getting to know West Virginia and seeing what's been happening, especially in our southern coal fields for some time. I mean, this is not a new problem. The decline of the coal industry has been in front of us for some time, but now I think with the new administration and their commitments, it's never been more important, I guess, for West Virginia to be at the center of these discussions around energy transition and what that means for our people and what it means for jobs and our economic future. And yes, the science tells us we need to act immediately, act aggressively to mitigate the worst effects of climate change, but we can't do that without considering the people dimension, the human dimension, and that's where we're going to have to lean heavy on Senator Manchin, Senator Capito, all of our leaders from the local governments on up to make sure that we have a seat at the table of these conversations.
Angie Rosser is with this West Virginia Rivers Coalition. Angie, the U.S. Department of Energy has announced $110 million in funding meant to support job creation in places affected by the disruption of traditional energy markets. This is a working group that's going to be headed by Brian Anderson, who is very familiar, who's a West Virginian, and I had him on the show last week, so he gets it. So what is this to you and your organization? Is this, okay, this is a great start, or is this is monies to kind of keep people calm, or is this a substantial contribution to remaking West Virginia's economy? What is it to you all?
Well, it sounds like a good start, Hoppy, but I think we know that we're going to need investments that are truly transformational for our state. I mean, we're talking about having to reinvent our economic future and these communities that are so affected. I am very much looking forward and appreciate the immediacy that interagency working group that Brian Anderson is heading up to get out into West Virginia communities and start talking to people. I was one of the disappointed folks at the end of our state legislative session when the debate around a coal community comeback plan was ultimately rejected. And it just seemed absurd that we would not be moving faster on planning for these transitions. So I'm happy that if our state government isn't willing to make that commitment, now we have federal agencies who are going to come in and help us with that, and I'm relieved to hear that.
Cecil Roberts, head of the UMWA, proposed last week and was on this show talking about it. He still believes, and you can understand why, he's the head of the UMWA, that there's still a way forward for coal, that you can use carbon capture and sequestration, that you can try to bring steel back to this country, that there's still a market for coal overseas.
We have to do. But again, we need an all-hands-on-deck approach to figure out what, if there are technologies that are effective out there, how do they benefit West Virginia the most? How do those technologies create jobs right here at home for the communities and the workers that need it the most?
Angie Rosser is with this West Virginia Rivers Coalition, the West Virginia Climate Alliance. Again, I want to go back to what I wrote today, and that is, as I said, I'm not a climate change denier, but I am a worried West Virginian. And when I hear and read, and a lot of these plans that President Biden wants to do are still unfolding, we get that. But when I hear and read about here's billions that are going to go to communities that have been impacted by climate change or may be impacted, or minority communities, or people who've been dealt environmental injustice, all kinds of these things are said. And I keep thinking, wait a minute, does that include us? Does that include poor Appalachians who have already been impacted by the decline in coal? Does that include poor Appalachians who are going to be impacted even more if these anti-carbon plans go in place? And I guess I come back to the original point, is that does Washington get that we are going to get socked by this?
Oh, I hope so. I mean, I feel like that's our job, and that's certainly our elected leaders' job, is to make sure this is understood. I mean, when I talk to people in D.C. or outside of the state, they are astounded by the reality that in many communities in West Virginia, we're not even delivering safe tap water on a reliable basis. I mean, our basic needs we're just so far behind, and you're right. We've got it stocked to us for a while now. And it seems like this is the moment, if there ever was a moment, with a major infrastructure investment being talked about, with our senators certainly in influential key positions to help guide where these investments go and how they're done and at what scale. Like, this is our chance to really turn things around. So I'm worried like you are, but I'm also like, now is the time. Mm-hmm. Now is the time for everyone to get involved, put their oars in the water, and start pushing in the direction and making sure that West Virginia and Appalachia gets the attention it needs and frankly deserves after the sacrifices we've made as a region to power this country for nearly a decade or more.
Do you think that view is, and I think you have a unique perspective, because you're not just driving an environmental bus here. You know the struggles of West Virginia communities. Do you speak with the national environmental leaders, and do they get it, or are they just all in the anti-carbon mode and seize the moment to go anti-carbon and not fully grasp the challenges we have here?
I think we are moving in the right direction on that way. I think there is a growing understanding around the concepts of justice and equity, but also the reality of the politics, Hoppy, frankly, are helping us too. The Biden administration, Congress needs to reckon with West Virginia and Appalachia and the unique challenges we have here. You simply are not going to be able to advance climate policy without considering the effects of people and workers and communities in this state. And something I took away that really sunk in with me with President Roberts and the mine workers plan is that they were acknowledging the need to take care of coal workers, but also communities. That this is as much about a sector, maybe more about a place and what we're facing here as a communities and state. It just doesn't stop with coal jobs. It goes further than that. So we need major investments to strengthen our communities immediately and for long-term sustainability. So I'm counting on our senators, I'm counting on our governor to make sure that, and our legislature, everybody to make sure that we're taking advantage of this moment to show that where the need is the most. And we certainly have that strong argument to make. You can't succeed on climate without also taking care of people.
Angie Rosser, West Virginia Rivers Coalition, West Virginia Climate Alliance, on how coal communities can adjust, what's ahead if we are moving toward a post-carbon energy economy. Angie, good to speak with you as always. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Hoppy. Have a great day.
All right, you too.